Hello, Mark and Teresa from Out of Office Camping. In this video, I want to talk about EZTube. Now, Kurt is going to show us a project that he did, and we're really excited to show you that. It's with this Storyteller van. But before we get into that, I just wanted to share with you some of the different products that are here. Starting with EZTube is basically a 1-inch pipe system. Now, this comes in either aluminum, steel, or stainless steel. The other thing is there's different connectors. You have composite connectors, such as this, or you have a steel core connector. Now, this would be for things that are more weight oriented, and same thing with if you choose to go with the steel pipe, or say a stainless steel for outdoor applications. But what's really important to know about the composite connectors is these are basically 33% glass-filled nylon. So they're very strong, very rigid. They're going to last a long time, which is nice. And what's also great about these connectors are they're basically hammer fit. So you just basically, if you had like a rubber hammer, you just tap them in. But they also have, with their connectors, right here, these are basically quick release. So say you have a build, or you have something you want to make modular or versatile, you can basically go this route, and it allows you a lot more ability to create just about anything. Now with the connectors, they come in obviously black, just like the pipe. They come in silver or gray. And then you also have white, or the white pipe. So those are more or less the 3 different colors. And then the 2 different types of connectors. Actually, 3 different types. You have the nylon, but then you also have the steel core. With that, in addition to that, there's different types of configurations. And this is nice. So say you want to put a wall in here, or with this one here, it has multiple tracks. Say you want to have like sliding doors. So there's really no end to what you can create. The other thing is, besides just the connectors and the different types of configurations with the different types of pipes, you also have handles, wheels, feet. There's just so many different types of things. They have hinges. So all these things are on their website, but I felt it was really important because I think that this is such a simple system. Your biggest amount of time is basically in cutting your pipes and just your planning. I'm going to include a video which inspired me sometime back 7 years ago with a fellow in, I believe, Australia, who was using a different type of system over there. And I was just amazed. But that video, if you watch that, it would help you, give you a little bit better idea of how to set up your jig, how to cut your pipes, all those different things. So let's get into the video.
Hi, I'm Kurt, and this is my 2021 Storyteller Mode Classic. Had this since it was new, so approaching 4 years now. And we use this, my girlfriend and myself, to travel around the U.S. We don't live in it. A lot of folks ask that question, but we do use it almost as a daily driver, and we frequently get out on the weekends and do longer trips with it. And one of the great things about the Storyteller is, as with a lot of camper vans, they have a large garage in the back, and we found that coming up with a storage solution for that large space was a little tricky. We started with bins, we then went to some other solutions, and each of those presented a problem in that we had to basically unload the van for whatever item it was. It is invariably at the bottom bin in the bottom corner of that bin. So what I've come up with is using some products that I haven't seen anyone else use to come up with a storage solution that gives me a gear slide and a drawered cabinet that has been a great addition for accessibility of our cargo. Why don't we walk around back and I'll show you. The common garage space that you'll see in a lot of these vans, Storyteller is one of several. Normally this is just one big open space, and that's great, but I needed to contain some of our belongings and some of our gear. Our bicycles weren't so easily accessible, and as I mentioned, having individual containers was problematic because you see the depth here is about 4 feet, and reaching back and forth was tricky. So I've built a cabinet and a gear slide, but I've done so with some materials that I haven't commonly seen. And those materials is a product called EZTube, which is an extruded aluminum tube, which can be purchased with many different configurations. I chose one that has 2 flanges, but you can get 0 flanges, 3 flanges, or 4 flanges, and they come at different depths depending upon the product you're going to use. For the panels, I use this polypropylene honeycomb material, and this is super lightweight. It's very strong. It's also has some thermal and audio properties that cancel out noise. So what I was trying to achieve here is something that was very lightweight, affordable, and something that I could build using the commonly available tools that I have at home. And I'm not a cabinet maker. I don't have any background in this sort of trade. But when I discovered these 2 materials and how well they fit together, I realized, hey, I can do something that is affordable and very high function for the needs that I had for my gear and belongings. One of the traits of this material is the way it's joined. It uses an interference fit plastic joint. So this is plastic, and it just presses into these tubes. So you're just straight cutting the tubes, and it's very easy to get a square cabinet with just straight cut tubes. Unfortunately, I don't have a sample of that joint free and clear. You can get a little bit better look at it on this gear sled that I've done. And maybe this is a better side mark because it doesn't have that extra bit. So this has basically a prong that goes into this tube this way and another prong that goes into this tube this way, and they're just hammer fit together. I've gone an extra step in that I've added some rivets so these can't possibly slide apart, and that was just drilling a hole and popping a rivet in there. You could alternatively use a screw, or you could bond them together. I thought about each of those things. One of the great things about this gear slide is that it's sliding on UHMW, so there's no metal, and it uses rollerblade wheels as a guide. And the UHMW is simply mounted to the floorboard. And one of the cool things about this slide is that I can take it out. We just weighed this, and it's 9 pounds. It's extremely light. It feels like nothing in your hand. In the future, I plan to add some legs so I can use this as a freestanding table, or even with suction cup or other joining to the side of the van, I could use it alongside the van. Back here you can see some of the detail of how this is cut and joined. So these corners, these inside corners, have to be mitered when you have a flange like this. The honeycomb material is just resting on this flange, and I've used 3M very high bond VHB tape to keep it in place, which then basically makes that panel somewhat of a structural component. So when I built this, one of the things that was important to me was having this slide move easily in and out, and also no rattles. So I didn't want to hear the thing bouncing around in the back with my bikes on it or anything else. I also built it specifically to carry my bicycle, so I didn't need it to support a huge amount of weight. So this slides in very easily, as you see. We've used a combination of the UHMW for a guide and rollerblade wheels so that there's no vertical movement, there's no horizontal movement when it's in place. And then to keep it in place, using a simple door slide, and that captures it from moving backwards when I don't want it to. Now, one of the things about this that I love is these connectors are not a one-use only connector. You can take this apart, and if I wanted to, say for example I needed to carry more weight, I could cut these tubes to a different length, add more connectors and more cross members, so that would support this panel and actually make the panel smaller, supported on 4 sides in smaller sections, so that it could become much more weight supportive, be able to carry much more load. So this company, EZTube, is a regional company for me here on the East Coast. They're up in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. One of the things I like about this stuff compared to other commonly used aluminum extrusions is that there's more air here. You don't need any fasteners to join it. It just snaps in place. Now fasteners, I did use some fasteners to attach UHMW for my cabinet, which we'll show you here in a moment. But those are the only fasteners that I've used in the construction of this. So there's literally very little steel. It's predominantly air, as I showed you before. Between what's essentially glorified cardboard and this tubing. EZTube is commonly used for business-to-business applications, such as displays at trade shows and for building conveyors and cabinets for labs. And if you go on their website, you can see there's a zillion different uses for it. But I haven't really seen anybody use it for cabinetry inside a van or inside an overland vehicle. And I haven't seen anyone using this paneling. Another aspect of this that I really liked was there's no warpage, there's no mold, there's no mildew, there's no off-gassing with these materials. And because I'm sleeping right here, that was important. So in addition to being easy to join, one of the great aspects about EZTube is it was far less costly than some of the other extruded aluminum commonly used materials that I compared it to, which require many pieces of hardware to bolt every joint together and everything to it. I was really concerned about having so much hardware in a channel of aluminum coming loose. I'd have to track down a rattle. The Storyteller build is kind of renowned for being a quiet build, and I didn't want something I built to detract from what I paid a premium to have. Then the factor of cost wasn't the overwhelming driving factor for me, but it was definitely a consideration, and also the ease of being able to use different materials with it. So we mentioned that I use this honeycomb panel, but you could use more commonly available panels if you chose to use a lightweight wood or something else that you found at your local sign shop or home improvement store. You can screw or fasten anything to this flange, and it holds very, very securely because it's part of the extrusion. So you're not going to, whatever you attach to that itself is not, that flange on that extrusion is not going anywhere. So I do want to talk about some of the tools I used and some of the things about how I constructed this. Although this isn't a DIY type video, and more just an informative video about materials and some alternatives to some things that you may have seen and other people build out of. I do want to talk about my cabinet here. This was built using a lot of the same materials that we've talked about already. So it's an EZTube frame with the press-to-fit connectors. I'm using the same honeycomb paneling for the exterior and also for the drawer boxes. These drawer boxes are sliding on UHMW plastic blocks, basically, that I fit inside the frame. We're using road case aluminum extrusions to form the drawer box, and the aluminum is sliding right on that UHMW. And what I found was the aluminum on UHMW actually has a lower coefficient of friction than UHMW against it itself. So these slide as if they're on drawer slides, but the great thing about not using a conventional drawer slide is this is 4 feet long. So if you use a drawer slide that's that long, they're extremely heavy, and they also tend to rattle. So those two things are very important that I was trying to avoid in this project, as I mentioned before. Those conventional steel drawer slides for this length, I was seeing they're typically 25 pounds a pair. So I'd be looking at 75 pounds just in drawer slides. And you might be wondering, it's like, well, why the concern for weight? You've got this huge van. You can obviously carry a bunch of stuff. It's true, but these builds are already quite heavy. So I only really had about 1,000 pounds of total cargo, meaning people, water, pets, food, gear, etc. So I didn't want to use up valuable cargo carrying capability with a cabinet. So it was important for me to keep this 4 foot by whatever it is, 2 feet roughly, long cabinet, under 100 pounds. And with the drawers in place, it's roughly about 80 pounds in total. So if comparing that to other cabinets that are on the market, which are far more costly and also much heavier. Typically I was seeing 150 to 200 plus pounds for a cabinet this size. In this upper drawer, this is where I keep my paddle boards. So I've got 2 paddle boards in here right now. I can also use it for other purposes when it's not summertime. This I also allowed some extra space so I can stack things up here. The upper drawer that opens to the inside is shorter so that I have a nice open area up here at this end for taller items such as my camp chairs and whatnot. Also incorporated slam latches, which are great because once you close them, they're closed. You have to remember, remind yourself to latch them. They're very secure and they're very easy to open. So I added the third drawer to the top so that it opens to the inside of the RV. And what's great about this is, we can store all kinds of large objects here, but I can also put a cutting board across this and use this as additional prep space if I wanted to. It's plenty strong enough to support weight. And again, I've incorporated this slam latch so that when I shut this, I don't have to worry about, oh, did I latch it and have it come sliding out while we're driving in case I didn't latch it, unlike these button latches, which you constantly have to remember to latch, otherwise they will open on occasion. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the construction methods and tools that I needed to use to put this project together. One of the great things about working with aluminum compared to steel is that you can use many of the tools that you may have at home already for other home improvement or automotive projects. I didn't have to buy any special saw or that sort of thing. I did get a chop saw because the important thing was to get equal cuts on all these aluminum members for the framework so that everything is square when you put it together. So if I tried to do it with a handsaw, it would have been a lot more work. Being able to jig it up and use a chop saw was a really crucial element to this. It's something I just bought at Harbor Freight. It was less than $200, so I didn't have an enormous investment in tools. The construction methods are all very simple because you're just making straight cuts for those part or a 45-degree angle cut on some of these interior corners where you have a flange. Same with this honeycomb panel. I used a plastics appropriate saw blade for this on a circular saw. I used a typical circular saw blade. I'm just working in my garage at my condo. This is something that I'm not doing a ton of. I've built a couple of these now, and it requires attention to detail, but it's not a huge lift in terms of, oh, I need extra people to help me, and I need specific machinery, and I need a shop space. I wouldn't try to do this in your dining room and your living room. You might end up with being a lonely person if you did that. It does make quite a mess. Having a shop vac was really a key component to being able to keep the mess under control. Yeah, I mean, a simple project like just making a few cuts for a gear slide like this, where you're just making basically 4 members as I did here and cutting this panel. You could probably do that with simple hand saws and hand tools. When you start getting into doing multiple members across a cabinet like this, having that precision cut that you get with a chop saw, angle saw was really, really important. If you had trouble with the idea of cutting this stuff yourself, once you know your dimensions, it is possible to pay EZTube an extra fee and they will cut this to the dimensions that you require, which is also true of the UHMW and to a lesser extent the honeycomb panel that I used. My difficulty with that was I'm prototyping this thing, so I wasn't 100% confident in the dimensions, which is why I chose to do it myself, and I ordered about 20% more material than I needed so that invariably if I made a mistake, I wasn't stuck. In closing, I just wanted to say thanks to Mark for giving me the opportunity to be able to share some of this stuff with you guys. I hope you find it inspirational. I was very grateful for a lot of the information that he shared with me through the years, and also other YouTube creators. I've got projects at home and in the car that I've relied on heavily for years. So I hope you find this helpful. I just want to talk about again just some of the things that drove this project were cost. I wanted something that was affordable. EZTube is that. Ease of construction, again, EZTube, it's in the name. The interference fit connectors, lack of hardware, simple cuts, make it really simple to, with basic hand tools and maybe a few minor pyro tools to come up with a really nice finished product that can suit your needs when you have something that you want to enclose, or even if you just wanted to make a shelving unit, something super simple, basically like a couple levels of a gear slide. You could stack those with vertical elements and have a shelving unit. So that's really easy. So I hope this inspires you to use some EZTube in some of your projects. You'll find some helpful links in the description below. And Pops has something he'd like to share with you as well. What?
Like and subscribe.
What?
Like,
What was that, Pops?
Thumbs up.
Hey. What'd you say? Come on. What do you want people to do? Pops, tell me. Pops, tell me. What do you want the people to do? Yes.